Welcome to the Breakthrough Moments podcast, a podcast where challenges meet opportunities. I'm Harold, and together with my co-host Lasse, we explore stories of innovators, leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs, and how they turn obstacles into game-changing breakthroughs. Get ready for insights that inspire and lessons that last. Subscribe now, and let's dive into the moments that define success. Welcome to today's episode of the Breakthrough Moments podcast. Today we have Szymon with us, a seasoned entrepreneur who founded the first Polish social media agency, Green Parrot, which has later expanded into being a full-service digital agency. Additionally, he is also co-founder of Develtio, a software studio, and launched the innovative platform Human Intelligence, which leverages AI in creative services. With more than 17 years of experience, Szymon's journey is a testament to both long-term thinking from bootstrapping his business to becoming one of the most trusted players in the market. So with that, I welcome you to the podcast, Szymon.
Hello, Harold. Thanks for inviting me.
So we had a conversation before this where you gave me a bit of your background. But for the people that don't know you, could you give a brief introduction to who you are and what you guys are doing?
Sure. So basically, I started my first company when I was still studying psychology, but it was not connected with what I was learning at the academia very much, because it was an ad agency. Actually, the idea for this company was born during my studies, because we've been also having a subject of psychology of advertising, and there was on one of the lectures there was topic of buzz marketing or something like that. It was some strange name that didn't give me any information. What is it all about actually? So I thought, okay, let's jump into that, and that's the way I learned about how you can use blogs and social media. That was just being like on the rise. It was good 15 years ago, I'd say, even maybe more back then. So it was a new thing for me, and I started to learn about that, and it turned out to be even more interesting than the stuff I was studying at that very moment. And I thought that the best way to go about it is to actually launch a company that will offer this kind of services to the market, because that was completely non-existent back then. And that's how I started my first company. From that, there was like the whole other stories of other businesses that I failed and successfully run came from.
Yeah. I think I find it always fascinating to talk with someone that was early into the game of digital marketing. Like I started to dip my toes into it in 2011, and it was completely different, but you started even before that. Like, how would you say that the marketing scene and the marketing, let's say the game of marketing, has changed since you got started?
It's changed completely, I'd say. When I was starting and I was convincing people that maybe you should do something on Facebook or maybe you should do something on YouTube, they were laughing at it because, even the quality of video on YouTube was much lower than it is right now, obviously. And it was all like a child play for big businesses and marketers back before 2010. So basically, when we were presenting them with those opportunities, on one hand, they thought it's not entirely serious. But on the other hand, we were showing them testimonials and analytics from campaigns that we run, and they were so much higher and so much cheaper from anything else that they were doing, because that was a new thing. It was just being born, so it was not crowded with advertising. Their brands were not yet there. So it was like a virgin fields. You just needed to have enough imagination to start doing stuff there and be authentic, and it basically worked. We've been in this situation of, hey guys, this is something new. You have no clue what it is, but it will give you very much value and fast. And right now we are in the situation that actually marketers are getting smarter. And now they know that new things are appearing every 12 months, let's say, and whoever goes there first reaps the biggest rewards, because there is no advertising clutter, the reach is cheaper, people that are working on those platforms and new tools are not as expensive yet. So this advantage of being first mover, I think it's much more pronounced right now. and people are more aware that there should be a little bit more risky with their selection of marketing channels and marketing tools. So I would say that this is one of the changes. Of course, what social media did to the landscape, the new ways of targeting, how fast the content is being created, how many creative lines you can build, also with AI, for example, right now. So the changes are so numerous that it would be actually better to talk about something very specific, because just to talk about what changed within the field of marketing within the last 10 years, we can sit it like whole day.
Yeah. But where would you, if someone, let's say, previously have been skeptical about the things, they've not, let's say, dove into, let's say, being one of the first movers in terms of marketing, certain new, let's say, venues of marketing, where do you see the greatest potential in terms of what type of marketing would, let's say, be still, let's say, a quote-unquote an untapped way of doing marketing, based on your experience and your perspective?
I think that although everybody is talking about AI all the time, this is actually still untapped resource. And it's not about new channels, it's about how we work. So I'd say that in a very selective way, try to use AI tools that are available for content generation, for image creation, for strategy. There are tools even for making storyboards for movies and for commercials. There are tools that you can create a landing page with. So there are numerous ways of doing stuff, of doing things that used to take us, let's say, a week. Now you can have the created product the next day. So I'd say that the biggest thing that is right now in marketing is not a new channel, it's a new way of creating marketing, of new way of producing deliverables that usually you are waiting for from the agencies. Now you can build them within your own team, or you can work with agencies like ours or Human Intelligence, which is our talent platform, and you can hire people to do stuff for you in a fraction of time that it used to take, like, let's say 2 years ago.
Yeah. So basically what you see now is the greatest moat is the potential speed of execution by using AI. That it just dramatically reduces the time. So let's say you have an idea, then you test it to have that feedback loop and an optimization cycle. That has just shrinking tremendously now as AI has entered the market.
I think it's the most important change in marketing realm right now. Maybe from the point of view of channels, I think that influencer marketing is still not used to its full potential. So you can also search there, especially if you focus on something that I call creators, not influencers. So people who actually know something about a very specific domain, and they are not just famous because they are famous, right? So somebody with expertise in, I don't know, in electronics, in food, in wellness, in water. You can have water influencers, you have beer influencers, you can have headphones influencers. So very niche creators that actually are experts in a field. And those people, not only in terms of the reach that they can provide you, are a very interesting opportunity, but to actually talk to them and get their expertise and partner with them for longer term projects. This is something that is also, I think, there is still a big potential there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of people often are looking for the next big shiny thing instead of necessarily looking at how can we, let's say, get the most out of the established things. But one thing that I was interested in is, like, you gave a bit of this in the introduction in terms of, like, you started during the studies in terms of, like, okay, psychology, marketing, okay, that's interesting, and then it spun from that. When you started, how was it in terms of, like, the navigating the aspects of not having, let's say, access to capital to even start a business so early? Did that be one of the? Did that make you guys, like, face any big challenges in terms of, like, even getting started, or was that not so much of an issue given the lack of capital?
It was actually a very big challenge for me because I had like zero money when I was starting. Basically, what I did was me being psychologist, and I also was always touching in some way the psychology of business and so on. I was doing basically business trainings, and I was earning my money there and investing it in creating the social media, whatever, word of mouth marketing agency that I was building back then, Green Parrot. And so this allowed me to basically not earn money for the first 1 year or so. And then when mostly me and like 2 or 3 people, when we managed to show our clients the results, it was rather easy to convert other people to try what Facebook, for example, the magical portal of Facebook that it was back then, can offer them in terms of reach and advertising benefits. Then we just negotiated to get our money as fast as possible from our clients, not to wait for the money. And then we were going just month by month, but definitely that wasn't easy. And back then in Poland, like things like VC money, or even right now, VCs in Poland are like really, it's a margin of what's happening in terms of financing the new ideas. Back then it was like zero. I'm not sure if I back then I even knew what VC is. So for me, it was like basically you have to have money from your clients to work to survive. So that's how the thing was founded, and that's how we went through the first 3 years that were like initial years.
Yeah. I always like a good bootstrapping story, like someone starting from, like, say, not having anything, because like as entrepreneurs, we need to be creative, right? Like we need to figure out, okay, how can we make the money? How can we ensure that we have enough fuel in the tank to be able to go the extra mile, and these different things. But one of the things that stood out to me when we spoke last was your importance, or let's say, relentless focus on the long-term thinking. Just like, okay, what is going to happen? What is going to stuff look like?
Yeah.
But also, not just that, but also the long-term in terms of how can we keep clients along, or keep clients for a long enough time. There's 2 aspects to this. So one is the long-term thinking in terms of like the emerging trends. Because like you have the Green Parrot, and then you have your software studio, and now you're getting into AI with 2 different things. Like how do you have any set strategy, approach, routine for being able to think long term to stay ahead of the trend?
I believe that if you run service business like ad agency, if you are not long term oriented with your work with your clients, you're done. Because to acquire a client, especially right now, is so expensive. You've got like courting the clients is extremely long-term process and very expensive within the ad agencies world. Not only, but especially here. So if we are not able to sell them the vision that we actually know what might happen within the next 12, 18 months and deliver on that, trying to acquire this client for a few months, for 6 months, for anything less than a year makes like 0 sense. You will lose money on that. Long-term thinking is crucial, and numerous agencies who are thinking that they can just promise their clients mountains of gold within the next 6 months and just sell them on this vision, and then they will not deliver because it's not possible. This is the best idea how to lose money quickly. So long-term thinking, in my opinion, in the ad agency business is crucial part. And so how we think about that. When I was founding the company for the first few years, basically we were evangelizing. I think that Facebook should, although we were making money off Facebook, we are also giving huge amounts of money in the very beginning to Facebook. So we were basically agents of influence for Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, blogging platforms, and so on. We were selling this stuff, and agencies around the world. And it took a while. So this story was basically used, and how to say it, the story of social media was being evangelized by us for at least 5-6 years before the market realized that, okay, this is a new normal now. Without being on social media, you are not fully taking care of your marketing anymore. Right now, and then by that time we had enough money to start thinking about some other ventures and diving into new areas. For us, that the first thing was software. And first spin-off company that we created was Develtio, which is a software company. still in existence. It's just basically we're building bespoke software for other businesses. And we realized back then that marketing and social media, okay, this is very important, but you need to have good landing pages. You've got to have e-commerce. You've got to have web applications to connect all the, for example, CRMs. We integrated with the website of the client and so on. So we started to build also games. We've been one of the first studios in Poland building games for iPad and so on. So that was our first venture outside of the marketing itself, but it was very closely intertwined with Green Parrot. And right now, for a few years now, every year, basically, we are launching a new company. The tradition is becoming like a tradition that we try to be on the Web Summit every year with a new product. So, for example, this year we actually launched the first product that is completely not connected with marketing itself, because that's a developer tool, right? So we built this. It's called Kodobi, and we built this tool as a help for our internal team at Develtio. But it turned out, and Web Summit is already behind us, so we got the feedback from 70 different companies that it's actually interesting. We are onboarding the first clients, and we are seeing what will be coming out of this. But in the same manner, we launched Human Intelligence on Demand, which is marketing talent platform, where you can hire freelancers and build small teams to deliver on your marketing objectives. We also launched a chatbot company that we've built, I don't know, 100 chatbots within the last few years, even before LLMs, right? So we've been using back then we were using different technologies. Mostly our solutions were based on open source frameworks like Rasa, for example. And we've been building chatbots since, I don't know, probably for like 6, 7 years, 8 years. And then LLMs happened. This changed everything. And it's not such a big deal right now to build a very good, very good chatbot. So what we are trying to do is we are actually trying to go into new areas of the market, see what's happening there, and discover new opportunities, and then try to translate them into the benefits for our clients, both at agency and at software studio.
Yeah, I want to kind of like highlight the one thing that you said, which I really like that you said it in terms of the long term, in terms of client retention, in terms of just like what makes financial sense. Because I think for the past, I think it is 5 years now, I've been consulting a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs that wants to get into the marketing game, because there's been all the rage and like start your own social media marketing agency and this wave of, let's say, people teaching that, but they never talk about, let's say, the financials of it, like what is required to have the staff, have the marketing, do all that to acquire a customer, what's the cost of that, having the margins on client delivery and all these things. So I really like the fact that you highlighted the importance of actually having the stickiness and not churning clients for it to even make sense to think about. The
threshold of entry for marketing agencies is very low. So people think that it's actually easy to start it, and it is. As long as you're self-employed, you can you're a freelancer, and you can find clients very easily to basically pay your own bills, and you're good. But if you would like to scale it to have a real company that is in which you are not working, but the company is working for you, that's a completely different game.
Yeah. Where would you say the threshold for having, let's say, a proper company that works for you is in terms of headcount and turnover?
Oh, this is changing a lot right now. So I can say that in terms of how it used to be, like, let's say 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and before, I'd say around 20 people, 30 people, this is the moment that you can say, okay, I'm not employed by this company. Actually, there are some processes if you set it up correctly, because I know people who have like 60 people company in service businesses, and they are working 18 hours a day in the company, not on the company. So it's full of traps like this. So that's for sure. But at this level, I think that you should actually have this comfort of not being self-employed, let's call it this way. But right now, I'd say that this might be changing, because with AI, that's why I mentioned that this is the biggest change in the marketing field, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
With AI, I think that right now we can see companies of 3, 4, 5 people that are making millions in revenue yearly because so many things can be automated. And also, I would say that probably most effective teams will be like it used to be, like to have a proper marketing team with all the specialists, like let's say graphic designer, copywriter, some kind of motion video guy, account manager, paid media specialist, SEO, and so on. This is like 10 people team to have all the fields covered. Right now, I'd say that it's possible to cover everything with 3 people. So, and also if you start building, not only in services, like performing services on behalf of other companies, but if you start building your own products, you can build to a huge product with a team of 3 people and make very, very good revenue with that. I think that Midjourney, which is probably, you know, Midjourney, right? The AI startup that is doing picture, like image generation. So I think that, I don't know what's the headcount there right now, but like a year ago, it was 15 people, 18 people, something like that. And they were already huge business back then.
Yeah.
So you can build very big products with very massive recognition on the market and revenue in small teams right now. So I think it's changing a lot. And I think this is something that people are still underappreciating. And that's why I'm mentioning that the biggest change in marketing right now, and maybe in business in general, is the size of the team and how much you can actually automate and basically do more.
Yeah. That's interesting because I can't recall his name, but there is this guy that I read about where they've said, and there's plenty of people that actually come out with this, like we're probably within the end of the decade going to see billion-dollar companies with a team of less than 3. Yeah.
I believe that first guy who was talking about that was Naval Ravikant. I think that he is a founder of AngelList. Amongst many.
I think he might be the person that said that.
And he was talking about it years ago, and right now it's like no brainer anymore, right? But you can see people like, for example, I believe his name is Peter Levels or something. He's like one of the guys that are doing this indie hacking. Although recently he said that indie hacking is dead. That's another story. But basically, he's building multi-million-dollar businesses in the team of 1, right? So. Yeah. And if you need somebody to help you with specific job, you just go to a platform like Human Intelligence on Demand, and you hire a good, I don't know, motion design guy or paid media guy. So I think that this is the direction that the reality is turning into.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like if you were to, let's say, because I want to go more into AI, because I'm really into AI. I think a lot of people that are going to listen to this are also into AI, or maybe some are on the fence, like, where are the opportunities within AI? And you, to some degree, describe the way we work is a great opportunity. But like, if you were to then highlight, if someone wants to get into AI, what do you believe is the best place to start?
The best place to start is to open ChatGPT and ask your first questions, and ask him where to start.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that entry, like threshold of entry into this stuff is 0. You can have the tools for free, most of them, and everybody can start learning right now. So I don't even know what to recommend for the beginner. Also, there is a lot of people on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, that are creating a lot of content about what's new and what's happening there. You can ask them, you can talk with them. They're open to give you an advice. Learning new stuff right now is so easy that you can go to the ChatGPT and ask him for a learning program for yourself, how to be a master of, let's say, image generation in AI, and he'll create for you step-by-step guide what you're gonna do, right? Actually, one of the businesses that we are working on right now is in that field, meaning we go and create coaching agents based on AI that will help you to achieve your results and your goals in different fields. And it's like fully automated. So I believe learning new stuff is easier than it ever was.
Yeah. That's interesting because like one thing that I'm at least focusing a lot on internally is infrastructure, like the processes, the foundational frameworks, and stuff like that. And also how you can, let's say, augment the tasks that you do with AI. And when a couple of people ask me like, how do I get AI to output this thing that I want? I'm like, why not ask AI? Because if you have a
Yeah.
vague idea at least about what type of output you want, you can just ask AI, okay, how can I produce this? What input do you need? What's the process like? And all these different things. So you can basically reverse engineer anything. I remember one thing that I've been thinking about for a long time is like, let's say, one thing that is also a bit hot in terms of marketing these days is cold email, like sending mass amounts of emails out to prospects to book meetings. And one important aspect for that is email verification. And I had no clue how email verification worked. And then I just asked ChatGPT, like, how does email verification work? What's the aspects of it? And then I think within an hour I had a full script to do email verification on our own server. And I think the threshold to get into something, and I completely agree with that premise that you made, is the barrier of entry is so low now because you don't need to be an expert about something and had a years of experience to even do it. You can just ask ChatGPT and then you can get the blueprint. So I really like that. But the one thing that I wanted to go into, because you vaguely mentioned like human intelligence and the company that you guys have there. What was the idea and how did that come to be originally? Because my understanding is, and you said, it's a platform to hire marketing people.
hmm
Was it something born out of necessity? Was it something that you saw an opportunity there? What was it that started that venture?
It's no secret that most agencies are working with freelancers all the time,
Mm.
and the market itself evolves in this direction. And usually, not always, but a very big chunk of very best experts in any given field, you will not find them in a specific company working 9 to 5. You will find them on freelance market and you can hire them directly. And we've been always from time to time using freelancing talent. And we noticed that we realized at some point that agency models should evolve in the direction of hiring smaller teams. That was something that we felt before AI. Now it's basically obvious because of the whole automation and so on. Before this happened, before LLMs were like changing the landscape like they do right now, we already knew it was like 3-4 years ago that we started to talk about that we should try to provide our clients alongside our traditional agency services, retainers, and so on, with smaller teams that that then can be created ad hoc for their particular project, not necessarily with built out of our internal agency team, and just give the client direct access to those people, maybe even send them to the client's office, let them work there for a few days, work with the client personally and so on. And we were experimenting with this formula like in completely no code version. So basically everything was via email and so on. And then we decided, okay, it's probably mature enough to create a platform that will automate and make the process easier. The process of hiring, creating the briefs and specification for the projects. Meanwhile, we added also AI layer. So right now you can also talk with our marketing AI, or you just can provide it with URL to your website and it will learn what you need, what your business is, and it will help you to during the marketing brief that you're gonna create for the project that you want to run through human intelligence on demand platform. It will help you with that. So yeah, that was the idea. The idea was from the very beginning that small teams with direct access to the client. It was started earlier than 3-4 years ago because that was before COVID. So we were thinking at the very beginning that it will actually work in a way that we will be building small team and putting them into the conference room of the client for, let's say, a week and delivering all the marketing products that the client wanted, the strategy, the graphic design, whatever that was, in client's office. So, and we were thinking about this idea in this way, more offline way. And then COVID started, so we just moved it fully to remote. Although we still like to work with client personally in the same room, I think the energy is different in those circumstances. We even started right now, everybody's doing webinars. We are doing seminars that are actually in person We rent out some cool space to just talk about stuff with a group of clients. We are also mixing different companies together at one table to work together and help exchange the ideas and so on. So I am actually a big believer in working in person still.
Yeah. It's just something different about it. Like, it doesn't have the same energy digitally as it has in person. But one thing that I would say is a recurring theme with the use, Simon, is like looking ahead, like thinking ahead, being the first mover. If someone wants to adopt more of the behavior of, let's say, trying to look into the looking glass and look into the future, like, how can I be one of the first movers? Like, what can someone do? Because I think there's a lot of fear in terms of like stepping out of the comfort zone, but also like by chasing this, I will give up what I have potentially. Like, how do you balance that? And also, like, what routine do you have to kind of like try to catch the trends and stay out and be the first mover? Because like you've done that plenty of times, like marketing and then development, human intelligence, now AI, and also like you mentioned, and I love it in terms of like we're trying to go to Web Summit every single year with a new thing. Like, that isn't easy. So how can someone start?
The thing is, the very true heuristic to go about it, the heuristic is true, although I think it's not actionable because somehow in heart nobody is thinking this way. But heuristic should be make a list of how many failures you would like to have a year. Like, if you're not failing enough, it's not good. It means that you are actually not trying. But the problem with this heuristic is that it's really hard to convince people to think this way. I think it's borderline impossible, although it's true. It's a very good heuristic, and I think you can follow it if you are able to. For people who are not able to, like me, although I know it's true, I would just recommend to read a lot. Just read a lot. Also, old books, new books, read what's online. I'd say that if someone wants to offer the future, he needs to basically learn a lot and read a lot. You've got to find the secrets that are on the market. And you cannot find them just, sitting at the whiteboard here with a marker and coming up with the ideas. Good, that's a part of this journey. But the first part is to just learn, acquire tons of text and knowledge, listen to podcasts, also observe other markets. So, for example, it used to be much easier because, for example, if you were building something in Poland or in Europe, to be honest, you just went to US, you observe what was happening in US, and then you come up to Europe or to Poland and you do the same shit, and it will probably work in 2 years' time. So the lag between the markets was so big that basically you could steal ideas from this market and implement it in European market. I don't believe it's true anymore because the knowledge is too available right now. So everybody is seeing what's happening everywhere all the time. So just have to read and listen to smart people and count on your creativity. So that's the less attractive, let's say less quote-worthy way of answering this question. What would be and what is a good quote is to fail more. But I don't really see people who are targeting this kind of KPI amount of, let's say, we need to have 10 failures this year. It makes sense. It will give you results. But how to convince somebody to think this way, it's, I don't know.
I like it, but I can see why it's difficult for people to start thinking like that.
Honestly, I have so many failures in my life, and I know it's not going to kill you. It's a part of the process. But to actually think this way, that you've got to fail more, it's very hard.
That's been interesting. I think we have a couple of, let's say, pages from your book that we can extract from this talk, and hopefully someone can find value in that. But I have one final question. And I ask this question to every guest on this show, and it goes like this: if you can get an answer to one question related to your business and what you do, what would it be, and what would you like to know?
Sorry to be boring, but I would go with AI, and my question would be: if and when we're gonna see artificial general intelligence? Because when this shit drops, the world will be changed forever. And I'm not like fully certain that it's possible to have AGI or within near future, but something very close, almost like it. I think it's rather possible that it will happen soon. And this will change, for my business, it will change everything, because I work with ideas, I work with software, I work with concepts, with texts, with strategies. This is my work. And suddenly there will be something that will be probably making this work at much higher level, faster, maybe not cheaper at the beginning, but with time also cheaper. And this will mean that we've got to change a lot in our work. So that would be like from the science fiction department. That would be a question I would ask. But on the other hand, what is science fiction anymore? Yeah? We are talking. Most of our conversation is about things that might happen and that already happened, but people didn't believe that it will happen. So we are working with science fiction right now, and with stuff like AI, it's just getting more and more futuristic. So I think that would be a question. If there would be somebody like ghost from the future, and I could ask him one question, I would ask that, definitely.
Yeah, I like that. I often ask the question in terms of how is the world going to look like in 2030. So just like about 5 years from now, like what are we going to look back on and have seen change in those 5 years? But I like that question, Szymon. I truly do. This is super interesting.
Check out the fact that. Let's focus on the fact that we are asking what will be the world in 5 years from now, right? 15 years ago, nobody would be asking this question. Nobody felt that it will be so much different.
Yeah.
So even the fact that you are thinking about how it will be in 2030, and you are actually expecting that it will be much different, shows us that the change is all imminent. Yeah. Everybody in our industry, let's say, is feeling that, and it will change a lot.
Yeah. If someone wants to reach out, connect with you, learn more about what you guys do and follow along, what's the best places for them to go?
Funny enough, probably the best way is to just Google my strange second name, which is Paroszkiewicz in Polish. There is like, if you Google that, you will have only one result, and this will be me. Very unpopular name. And also you can just go to, let's say, develtio.com, and you can find the contact for me there. But basically, Googling my second name is a good way to find everything, because really, there are like 7 people on Earth with this second name.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we're going to make sure that the link to Google, maybe also your LinkedIn profile.
You can LinkedIn, Twitter, I'm there.
Yeah, so we're going to add that in the show notes in the description once this episode goes live. The final thing I can say then, Szymon, is thank you so much for being part of the episode. I learned plenty, and hopefully the viewers and the listeners have as well.
Thanks, Harold. Thanks for having me.